What if I told you that second citizenship and extra passports aren't just for the ultra elite?
What the fuck?
In this video, I'll share with you 6 legal ways to get a second passport, expand your optionality, and become more free. But before we get into the tactics, why would anyone even need a second passport? Yours is just fine, right? Well, a passport portfolio expands your travel around the world, gives you more privacy in banking and investing, and gives you more optionality in the event that your country decides to go rogue in the future. And I'm looking at you, Canada. Plus, in most cases, you can pass down your citizenships and your passports to your children, your offspring, and create generational freedom. You've heard of generational wealth, but this is generational freedom. So I'll get out of the way. Here are 6 ways to get a second citizenship, ranging from the most accessible to the least accessible. Numero uno, citizenship by descent or ancestry. If your parents, your grandparents, or your great-grandparents in some cases were citizens of a foreign country, lucky you. You might be able to qualify for citizenship from that country as well. Citizenship by descent is the most straightforward and one of the fastest ways to acquire citizenship in another country. Just because of your family and their heritage, you may qualify for citizenship in that country, no matter if you've physically been there or not. This is called jus sanguinis, and I don't speak Latin, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the right of blood. So take a look at this map. Right here, you're going to see a map of all the countries in the world with citizenship by descent, ranging from first generation, second generation, and even third generation. You can get citizenship if your great-grandparents were citizens of that country. So why is citizenship by descent the most accessible method of acquiring a second citizenship? One is essentially free. You just need to pay for legal processing and fees, stuff like that. But also, you just have to prove that your ancestors were citizens in that country. Obviously, each of these countries have different rules and specifications, so you have to check with them on their websites for the rules. But very, very accessible. You just have to prove their ancestry. And in most cases, no, you do not need to speak the language. And in some cases, you don't even need to visit the country to get mailed your second citizenship, your passport. So if you're lucky enough to be the offspring of a citizen of a country that respects jus sanguinis law, take advantage of it before that law disappears and gets erased. All right, number 2, citizenship by naturalization. Essentially, naturalization is simply meeting the residency and physical presence requirements that a country lays out to then become a naturalized citizen of that country. And most commonly, this is how the immigrants in your first world country become citizens. So once you've qualified for citizenship in that country, just by the residency requirements, you may have to take a history exam, civics exam, or pass a language exam as well. And by the way, this is just the time period to qualify for citizenship. Processing can take up to 5 years, depending on the country. Very generally speaking, this is how many years the countries in the following regions require for naturalization in their respective countries. As you can see, in some regions, it's almost impossible to naturalize. In others, it's extremely easy, 2, 3, 4, 5 years only. In my case, last year, I invested in real estate here in Colombia and was granted residency. Now, I'm on the path to citizenship in just a few years. That is, if I don't marry a Colombiana first. I would also call this method of obtaining a second citizenship free. But you do have to spend years of residency, years of physical presence in that country, and in some cases invest some dollars, invest some capital into that country in order to qualify for citizenship. All right, number 3, citizenship by marriage. Marrying a citizen of a foreign country can often speed up the citizenship process. And in most cases, that country also requires you to spend a couple years of physical presence of residency in that country to then qualify for full citizenship rights. If you have a foreign spouse, what are you waiting for? Take advantage of this law and get citizenship in your spouse's country if it pads your citizenship, your passport portfolio. And by the way, here is another free method of obtaining a second citizenship. You may just have to pay legal fees, processing fees, and spend maybe 1-2 years of physical presence in that country, depending on that country's laws. All right, number 4, citizenship by birth. And I'm not talking about your kids. Many countries, almost exclusively in the Americas, in the Western Hemisphere, incentivize foreigners to come to their land and give birth on their soil. In return, they give the children citizenship, birthright citizenship, but also in some cases, they may also give the parents of that child either residency or citizenship, and residency with a path to citizenship. Of course, birth tourism, as it's called, isn't really that simple. In some cases, a lot of these countries require you to spend boots on the ground time, physical presence, residency in that country before giving birth in order for you to get citizenship or your child to get citizenship. But nevertheless, some of the most popular countries for birth tourism for their quality of life and their passport strength are Canada, USA, Mexico, Costa Rica, Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. And if you haven't seen it, Shanna Michaela, who's a Bitcoin influencer, gave birth in Costa Rica about a year ago. She's originally from Oceania, Australia or New Zealand. And her child immediately got citizenship, and she is on the path to citizenship. So if you want to check that out, I linked it above here. This method of acquiring another citizenship is another free one, but obviously you will have to pay hospital bills and legal fees, processing fees, and like I said earlier, in some cases you do need to spend some time in the country of physical presence, residency, before acquiring that citizenship. All right, number 5, citizenship by investment or economic citizenship. The first country to create a citizenship by investment program was the Caribbean islands, St. Kitts and Nevis. Well, Caribbean islands, St. Kitts and Nevis back in 1984. Since then, almost 25 countries have created a citizenship by investment program, which means that they simply incentivize investors, real estate investors, high net worth individuals to invest in their country and contribute to their economic growth, and in return, they give them citizenship. Today, the most popular countries in the world for citizenship by investment vary. Their minimum thresholds vary, as well as their passport strength. But the most popular programs are in the Caribbean, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, and Grenada. In Europe, you have Malta, which is the most expensive citizenship by investment program, and Turkey. And then in Asia, you have Jordan. In Africa, you have Egypt. Again, these are just the most popular program. There are several more. So let's play a little game. How much do you think citizenship in these countries costs? Well, prices vary, of course, but in some countries in the Caribbean, you can get citizenship for as little as $100,000 US, which is subject to change in a couple months. But as it stands today, $100,000, which is less than half of what you would pay for a new home in the United States, Canada, Europe. But on the other end of things, Malta is the most expensive and most exclusive citizenship by investment program, ranging up to €1 million or $1 million. But if you're looking for the fastest path to citizenship, this might be it, together with citizenship by descent. All right, last but not least, number 6, citizenship by exception. 70% of countries around the world grant citizenship to exceptional individuals to reward them for their talents or contributions in their country. 70%. So you have a chance. However, you must be top 1% of the 1% in your field. One really famous example of citizenship by exception is Peter Thiel, one of the founders of PayPal and Palantir, a very controversial founder. Thiel acquired citizenship by exception in New Zealand, despite spending only 12 days in the country versus the normal 1,350 days required for naturalization. But obviously that's the power of exception, being absolutely incredible at your craft. A warning here though, Citizenship by exception is often used as an excuse to either buy or receive citizenship through corrupt back channels when passports cannot be bought. This is illegal and can land you in a whole lot of trouble if a government realizes that you're not actually a citizen of their country. A little caveat here, citizenship does not equal passport. What you want is an irrevocable but renounceable citizenship with which you can then obtain a passport. Passport's just papers. If you just receive those papers, a passport from a country, it's likely that you don't have full citizenship rights, and therefore it's illegal. If you're aiming to get a second citizenship and increase your optionality around the world and pass down generational freedom, which method are you going to use to get that second citizenship and passport? Comment down below and let me know. Thanks for watching. See you next week in the Freedom Files.